Hello, booktubers and super friends. So, I've come before you today to talk about novelisations. Because it's novelisation November, tie-in Timber. Great event devised by Andrew. It came from the page. I'll link down below to his announcement so you know roughly what we're talking about. So I did a TBR for a month celebrating novelisations and other kind of media tie-in books. Didn't have these on it, but I was trying to establish the provenance of a jumper that somebody was wearing on the Great British Baking Show with the word Oz on it. And going down that byway, there was nothing to do with this Oz. That's a counterculture magazine from the 60s. But I was reminded of the movie Return to Oz. So, the tie-in Timber event has prompts, and one of them is to read a novelisation or tie-in of something that's a favourite. And I don't really have many favourite movies, but this is definitely one of them. So Return to Oz came out 1985. It was made by Disney, it's live action, and it's not a musical. I personally love it for all kinds of reasons. I guess from a sort of Oz geek perspective, one thing is the production design was all based on the original illustrations rather than the 1930s movie. So the Cowardly Lion, for instance, is a great big lion rather than like a man in a suit. Also, there's some great performances, including Jean Marsh. I love everything with Jean Marsh in it. Yes, Jean Marsh, who was Rose in Upstairs, Downstairs, but also Bavmorda, the wicked queen in Willow movie. So yeah, Jean Marsh with heads, like multiple heads, in the Return to Oz movie. And Firuza Balk is fantastic as Dorothy, and again, a bit more story appropriate. She's like depicted as a young girl rather than the sort of Judy Garland age of person. So I thought, I do not think that happened. So, Return to Oz then, obviously coming out quite a long time after the Wizard of Oz movie. And I guess people know that pretty well. So, the Wizard of Oz book came out in the early 20th century. It's written by L. Frank Baum, and part of his sort of mission statement in writing The Wizard of Oz was to produce like an American fairy tale without the kind of darkness you get in the European legacy ones. How he thought he was doing that, I don't know, because it's full of all kinds of mayhem. And Wizard of Oz movie is quite scary. I was taken to see it as a child. Here in the UK, it wasn't on television until Christmas 1975, so you could only see it at the cinema. So I was taken along, and bits of that, flying monkeys, they're scary. The giant flaming head of Oz, that's pretty scary as well. But obviously there's lots of upbeat stuff, the songs, the munchkins, the colours, etc. So Wizard of Oz, that's done and dusted. Yeah, the Lollipop League. Yeah, I think they added that in. So Baum wrote sequels. In fact, there are 13 Oz books written by him, and then loads more carried on by other hands. So number 2, The Land of Oz, and number 3, Ozma of Oz. These are the source of the movie, or part of it. So The Land of Oz, it's great, but one thing it doesn't have is Dorothy, Toto, or any of that. It's just in Oz with Ozian characters. So, you know, that would probably leave people feeling a little bit bereft. Total sidebar now. Marvel Comics did an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, which is an adaptation of the movie, which they followed up with an adaptation of The Land of Oz, that second book, in this like giant treasury edition format. I really like this fabulous art by Alfredo Alcala, and I think the fact that it was like a different kind of story without the Dorothy element, I thought that was pretty cool at the time. But Ozma of Oz, I think, is one of the very best of all of the Oz books. So getting some material out of this makes sense as well. The other thing that's in the movie, and this is where it all goes a little bit weird, is something that is in the original movie. I say original, I know there were like silent ones and stuff like that, but let's say the 1930s Judy Garland Wizard of Oz is like the big beast. In that, there's a sort of bit of a spoiler for the one person who's never seen it. There's a sort of real life is reflected in Oz. Okay, so what Dorothy experiences in Oz, some of the people, some of the things, some of the objects even, are kind of versions of stuff that we've seen in real life down in the normal world. So that's continued, and that's not a book thing, that's a movie thing, and that's continued in this Return to Oz movie. Okay, and not everybody likes it. I remember like raving about it. I went to see it a bunch of times, 1980s, but some were like, just, well, there's no songs, you couldn't get past that. But what people were really upset was how scary it is. There's terrifying stuff. It's dark, it's grim. The whole idea, like the hook to get people in at the cinema, is it's 6 months after the events of The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy's in Kansas. Nobody believes her. They think she's like delusional because she keeps going on about Oz stuff. Well, there was the tornado, she had a bang on the head. It's like mental illness, we better do something about it. So that's the sort of... blimey, that's that's a realistic start. Sorry, I'm trying a new setup here where I don't have much equipment, but I've got a mechanical arm like that of the Tin Woodman, holding my Kindle Scribe on which I've written some notes, so I won't be showing you the top of my head when I read things, I hope. I'll probably move around in all sorts of other ridiculous ways. Anyway, what was I saying? Why did you ask to see me? Oh yeah, scary things. Plus, Uncle Henry, since the tornado, he's basically got PTSD, just sits there smoking roll-ups and not doing anything, not like building the farm. And, Dorothy's gone mad and it's the Depression. So basically Dorothy gets hauled off to a so-called doctor who's offering electric cures. So it's also set in very specifically 1899. So we're approaching the new century. Electricity is going to cure everything. So basically she's been taken to driven during a storm to this scary doctor house with a scary, fierce-looking nurse, where they're going to give her electric shock therapy, which is a real thing. And it's horrible, I think. In fact, if you were trying to find something to trigger me personally, based on some family experiences, I won't unpack a great deal, sort of institutionalisation of children and electric shock therapy are things that are like, I've seen them in reality, and it's grim stuff. So all this is happening, and then the action moves to Oz. Is that it? Is that leaving the nasty stuff behind? Let's hope so, but no, because Oz, the wonderful land of Oz, the marvellous land of Oz, is in ruins. The yellow brick road, broken, grass growing up between the bricks. Oz, emeralds have all disappeared, and that's ruined as well. People turn to statues, and then some really scary creatures turn up as well. The wheelers, they got wheels on the end of their where hands and feet would be, and they whiz along. So there's something to put you off physical theatre for life. So this is the book we turn to in its novelisations, not one but two. So it was done as a young Puffin. Puffins being the childhood wing of Penguin Books. So these are young Puffins.
Making them penguins.
We did a video about Puffins a long time ago, because they were Puffin annuals, and I've got the couple for Jennie.
And I was in the Puffin club when I was a wee girl.
Yep. Lest we forget. This isn't what her doctorate is. That's something else. But she was also in the string of letters after Dr. Jennie's name is Puffin, PC for Puffin Club. So this is a storybook for the wee bairns, really. It's only like 50 pages long. It's a book for those who have developed reading stamina. I don't know what you do, how you justify that, how you demonstrate that, whether it's like, yeah, once you've not DNF'd 10 books, we can say you've got reading stamina and you're allowed to read this one. I don't know. I think I qualify. I read Ulysses. But it's pretty short, it's pretty basic, it pretty much just tells the story. It's got some nice things about it. It's got the map of Oz, that's always fun. So you can see all the lands, lots of stuff, some of which, is just going to intrigue you for other Oz stories, because it's not in this one. And the illustrations by Jo Worth, I do remember seeing her stuff. She was one of the artists on a kids' TV show called Jackanory we have in Britain, which was like a storytelling slot. I think it was about 15 minutes long in the afternoons, where you'd see pictures coming up. Anyway, the other one is more for like anyone, I suppose, by Joan Vinge, I believe is how you pronounce her name, who Hugo Award-winning science fiction author, and also did a whole bunch of novelisations for all sorts of things, including Willow. So she's novelised the hell out of Jean Marsh. Oh God, I'll probably just make a reel of you just saying that.
Saying Bath. I could go, oh, Willow.
You could, yeah. But Willow Ufgood was just an idea. This time it's returned to Oz. And yeah, this book is great. It reminded me how fantastic novelisations can be, where they're deftly written so you can basically relive the movie. It doesn't sort of extend it out. You don't get like massive backstories to characters or anything like that. But you do get description, so the obviously visual, well, it has got pictures in it, not many, but unlike a movie which is visual all the time, you've got sort of you've got to describe things as well, which is done in I think a really, really good way. Had an example. As Dorothy reached the foot of the dark stone stairs, she heard the rumble of the stone curtain falling behind her, shutting her in with the king's ornaments. She stepped forward hesitantly into the lighted space that waited for her now and gasped in wonder. The rooms before her were truly rooms that belonged in a palace. She felt as tiny and lost in their splendour as any of one of the countless ornaments that lay displayed everywhere about her. The rooms were vast and high, their ceilings composed of vaulting arches, their walls and floors as smoothly moulded as the furrowed fields of Kansas. Columns and pillared doorways rose on every side, supported by countless other hands of stone, leading her eyes towards still more chambers beyond. She could almost have forgotten that they were all underground, except there were no windows anywhere. She tiptoed forward timidly, awestruck, feeling very much like a trespasser in the sepulchral beauty and stillness of the Gnome King's ornament rooms. But what I noticed is, just thinking how dark it is, and that start with the threat of the electric shock and all that, it stays dark pretty long. You know, she goes to Oz, there's the ruins, there's menaces. It's only by page 60 she starts to get allies and begin the sort of journey towards fighting back. But, you know, you also then get some of the scariest things of all involving Jean Marsh. As a witch princess with multiple heads. She's got a collection of heads in like glass cabinets, and she can swap them like Wurzel Gummidge, but more malignly. And that's her idea for Dorothy. I'll grow you, I'll keep you locked up until your head is big enough for me to have. And there's bits where like all the eyes of all these multiple heads are following Dorothy around. It's pretty scary.
Remember I told you about the story that the Latin teacher read to us, where the man murdered women and kept their heads on the mantelpiece, and the eyes followed him around, and I was so terrified I couldn't sleep for 3 nights.
Yes.
So,
but at least he told you it was going to be a ghost story. With this, it's like,
horror.
Let's go to see Return to Oz. The poster looks really jolly. And there is a very jolly scene for like about 5 minutes at the end. But by then, you're probably like, life is terrible.
This accounts for so much about you, dear.
Yes, well, plus, another interesting thing about the original Baum books is as a theosophist, he has a sort of mystical underpinnings to the stories, which doesn't quite survive into this. I'd say this is more, if you're going to read this as a serious novel, it's about 2 things really: psychological integration, because Dorothy has a double, and it's like how they finally meet. I suppose it's like confronting adulthood as well. And there's some sort of quasi-science fiction stuff about what makes something alive, when it's given that you've got like a TikTok, not that TikTok, you've got TikTok, a robot-type man who says he's proud to not be living, but then he does all the things that living people do. So is he? What does that mean? Yeah, great start to my novelisation November reads. Good that there was 2 of them. Good that it's reminded me of a fantastic movie, and of course the fantastic Jean Marsh. And we'll be back soon with something else.